Hello and welcome back to the Surfer's Library, proudly presented by Hillsborough Surf Club. I'm Billy Jack, your guide through the pages of surf history, culture, and legends. Today I will be reading a story called Long Day from Drew Kampion's Stories from the Surf, The Lost Coast. On a jet black morning in February of 1965, I had just crested the summit, flicked the gearbox into neutral, and was flying down the long, treacherous Oxnard grade. The lights of Ventura, shimmering far off in the distance, were streaked rhythmically by the weathered wiper blades of the coasting 1960 Volkswagen campervan. The 36-horse four-banger idled easily as the wind whistled louder and louder through the seams of the sliding windows. The nose of my 9-foot, 6-inch Conn surfboard rested on the back of the passenger seat, and the radio had gone to static a few miles back. My right foot was baking under the heat that leaked out of the small front heater tube. My left foot was in Siberia over near the door. I would be in the water at California Street by dawn. The van swung on its pigeon-toed wheels as it careened faster and faster down toward Oxnard Plateau, where only a few lights twinkled in those days. Oxnard itself was off to the left and sleeping still as I sailed past, once again running in fourth gear, the brass prayer bell tinkling rhythmically with the whump-whump-whump of the highway's oiled seams. On the radio, KRLA suddenly flickered to life with the Four Seasons wailing about Sherry Baby. Ah yes, I knew a Sherry Baby, but that was all behind me now. Tell her everything is all right, and then it was all static again. I fumbled with the dial, but the only stations I could raise were from San Francisco. There was just enough light under the morning overcast to show me the grim truth about C Street, small, rainy, and blown out. I cursed and rattled the steering wheel with my fist. I had sacrificed my morning classes at Valley State College and my afternoon hours at the market to be here, and it was crap. I stood in the sandy mud behind the litter of concrete riprap and driftwood that formed the beach's berm and sniffed the raw stench of agitated sewage, kelp, and petroleum. The long wooden pier sagged and was dark. Up the point, out past the fairground stables, chocolate lumps of wave dissolved in fitful bursts of whitewater that spanked the ugly shoreline rocks and dissolved into dirty, slow-burning puffs of foam. I would not say I was happy. I clambered back up into the VW, embarrassingly close to tears, and fondled the wobbling gearshift knob for a second before I twisted the key to start the little engine. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Then I swung around and headed up the road to the White Bib restaurant, which was open and already 3 pots of bad coffee into the dark day. I took a stool, feeling bleak and disheveled in the face of the waitress's crisp white blouse and pleated black skirt. She poured black coffee into a white cup, but when I looked down, I could see right through the liquid to the bottom. I still had time to make it back to the valley for my second class, and then I could show up for work, tell him I was feeling better now, miraculous recovery. Or I could go further north, check Rincon. It'd probably be a waste of gas, and I was low, but the overhead was a dull chaos of shifting peaks and mushy piles of lethargic whitewater, maybe 3 or 4 feet, high tide, nothing to ride. Mondo's was worse. Stanley's and Hobson's were junk, and the oil piers were sad industrial wasteland in the gray morning. La Cachita Point offered no great hope for Rincon, but I coaxed myself on. Sometimes turning this corner made all the difference. As with the other county lines along the coast, the Ventura-Santa Barbara border was a sort of convergence zone. A funky south wind might eddy and swirl and be beautifully smoothed out by the time you got to Rincon. Rounding the bend and heading along the La Conchita Strait, I could see a little whitewater pushing along the cobbled length of the point a couple miles ahead. The beach break to my left, below the highway, was glassy but unremarkable with some rideable peaks. I began to hope that Rincon could be fun. When I got there, 6 or 7 cars were parked along the roadside. A couple of guys were heading down over the boulders with their boards as I U-turned on the highway and pulled over at the front of the row. The waves looked marginal, sectioning 2-footers, breaking close to shore, maybe a dozen guys out, scattered from creek to cove, dark shapes undulating with the waves. A light gray ribbon of smoke wandered up from the driftwood fire. There was a flicker of flame. Yellow light warmed the windows of a few of the houses nestled in the trees along the point. People were getting ready for work or school. I leaned back against the van and considered. The air was chill and damp, the waves unpromising, but I was here. The eventual outcome of a series of expectations and justifications had brought me to this inevitable moment. I began to shiver, muscles suddenly contracting with the decision to paddle out. Lifted the back hatch, slid out the board, balanced it across tops of fog-wet granite boulders, took out a white stag wetsuit, stiff as cardboard in the back of the van where the heat never reaches. Pulled off shoes, let blue jeans drop, slid the cold rubber up over quivering thighs. Frigid neoprene embrace briefly took breath away as I pulled off sweatshirt and t-shirt, thrust arms into short sleeves, squirmed wetsuit up over shoulders. In a few seconds, stopped shaking, bundled clothes away, took out quarter bar parawax, crouched over my stick. Fingers cold, board cold, wax cold, and hard. Not much transferred rubbing in the rumbling circles over the deck. Slipped piece of wax up wetsuit leg, gathered surfboard underarm, climbed down rocks onto sand, medium tide, 40-degree air, 54-degree water, 8 a.m. Wet sand warmer than the rocks, the first surge of white water up legs is a shock, but then felt fine. Same with first roll under wave, cold flush, physical alarm, then fine. Glassy. Ocean all grays except black wetsuits of surfers, white bursts of foam, oily smooth in places, then rifled with texture. Suck of each wave exposing sinews of energy drawing four waters smooth. Rotating, peeling, plunge over rocky shallows, bending towards me. Sections curled and burst in several places. Very peaky rincon. The dozen surfers seemed more like half. Watching, paddling past first peak, sat up on the shoulder of second, watched beautiful drop, bottom turn into pitching lip. 3-footer swatted board away with surprising speed. Surfer Gary Brown, I recognized. Rose cursing, groped over the rocks after it. Could hear the bump and crunch. Watching, could feel his pain, but next wave, smooth dark slope, completely virgin, gasp of pleasure in 7 fast strokes. Slide and swoosh into soft saddle of energy, closing on far side into relaxation. Slipped over the back, resumed paddling, out to third peak, still inside creek mouth, dark gray reflections in winters of unlit beach homes, 3 surfers walking up the beach. Then 3 of us at third peak. More size again, maybe 4-foot peaks, still more size at indicator, and no one out, maybe later, working gradually. Nice set coming. 1, 2, the third mine, alone and uncontested. Clean black peak bulging past towards the cove as I dropped in. Fin vibration off the bottom. Walling down the line, chance to make bowl section, crouch and crumble lip of wave in head. Tumbling, board gone. Chill turbulence sweeping me, bumping over the rocks. Hands groping protection and purchase. Head up to breathe, looking for board, already nested in kelpy rock canyon amidst receding surge of foam and stream. Fortunate lie, but found a crunching ding in the center far rail, ridge of torn fiberglass. Miracle. Chunk of wax still up my leg, rubbed it into the gash, sealing and keeping me from scratches, lifting the board over whitewater surges, stumbling for balance, sliding on and paddling out into a lull. 3 guys on the beach, standing at the creek, trunks, no wetsuit, laughing as they waded in. Splashing dives out with their boards, yelling it like bathwater, so warm. Told me they're from Santa Cruz. We don't wear wetsuits when we come down here, the one named Joe said. The third peak was 6 of us for a few sets. Then the 3 Santa Cruzers paddled out to indicator, and one of the other 2 disappeared. 2 of us to ourselves, tide rising, fattening the waves, shortening the ride. I kicked out of a wave, paddled to the next peak inside, found a couple more discrete peaks working now, getting mushier, smaller. Finally caught one to the tail end beach break curling across the small strip of sand right below the van. Thought about getting out, going into Carpinteria, something to eat, gas up, see if it got better later. Looking for a wave to take in, a nice wall moved in, snagged it. Curling and zippering, crouching, it looped over my head. Kicked out, energized, started paddling back for more. Another little set, not peaky, but small, peeling across to the rip-rap seawall. Clean and fast, no one else. They're all outside or leaving, and I hold a cheater 5, 1 foot over the nose of the board. For a long, good 25 yards, burying the nose, pull through the back as the shore break collapses. Just a few surfers left, maybe 6, as late morning surge of southeast wind was scuffling it up even worse, but almost at my back as I paddled back out, past the first to the second peak. Tide high, chop and backwash ugly. Takeoffs became floppy, faces lumpy, waves short. It was time to head in, and me not alone thinking this as the water cleared out in less than a half an hour, except for the 3 Santa Cruz guys barely visible every once in a while through the glare out at indicator. Standing in the shallows, after losing my board in the end section, I waved to Gary as he tied down the trunk of his 64 GTO, his board sticking out, fin up, and tore off, full-throated roar, heading back for his 3 to midnight shift at the market. It would have been a good time for me to go, too, but the sun was out now. My back was warming towards hot under the wetsuit, and there were waves. Not great waves, but rideable waves, at Rincon with nobody out. Started paddling, bumpy, nose aboard slapping down, water splashing my face, squinting into low winter sun, searching for clean wave. Nothing. Sitting, popping cup bulbs, voices drifting out to me. The 3 northern guys heading back down the beach. One of them waved. I was not far off the beach, saying, "It's all yours," and then it was. Fog haze eclipsed Channel Islands, but 2 oil platforms dimly visible, sun above now and towards straw-colored coastal hills. Few vehicles on Coast Highway as Santa Cruz guys pulled away in Old Woody, leaving my van alone on the roadside, except for a couple of cars parked down along La Conchita beach break. Hungry again, but warmer too, waiting. One more wave, smell of sun-warmed neoprene. There weren't many waves, just enough. Each time I rode and paddled back out, another would come in a minute or 2. Resolved to surf until after school crowd showed, then get food, gas, head home. See my girlfriend, go somewhere dark and private. Then a wave came. Long nose time, fast little pocket, standing island, pull out and shore break, stoked, reinvigorated, paddling stronger than earlier in the gray and cold. Felt like summer almost. Air crisp and clean in nostrils, hair drying, powdery salt tracings on shoulders, feet stirring figure eights underwater, keeping nose aboard, pointed towards indicator, waiting for next wave, which came again and again, and no one came after school. Sun getting lower and lower, haze finally burning off. Channel Islands revealed, tide dropping, swell lines darkening again and backlit, sections linking, waves lengthening, blue shadows stretching, peeing in wetsuit, goosebumps in the late afternoon chill, thinking I should be going, but one more wave, and another, and another. In the end, water purple and orange, sun dropping behind Santa Rosa Island, tide so low, acres of rock and tide pool exposed, blue-black shadows and gleaming patches of reflection, 2-foot waves curling snappily around the arc of cobble, wave after wave, arms limp, aching, fatigued, shivering, oily glass and folding pore of lip, 2 or 3 halfway strokes to catch one, barely able to push up, stagger to standing, fall backwards into churning surge, careless of direction, rolling over rock and sand, lifted the board by the tail, tucked it under an arm, breathing hard, watched the last edge of sun evaporate in the distant ridgeline, looked into van, dim glow of daylight still on it, 20 feet above sea level. I was almost on my way in, but a blue-black set came cracking along, another right behind it and another. Heaved a groaning sigh, a Shakespearean tempt me not, and almost wept to hear my mind decide, one more. Walked out along the low tide edge towards the dying light. Sliver of moon revealed chasing after vanished sun. Venus bright between them, Saturn and Jupiter peeking out of half-night space above. Just a 1,000-year drive in my van away. Out near the takeoff zone, standing 100 yards seaward from the stream mouth, lights flickering down at La Conchita Point, houses on the Rincon glowing gold, highway busy with after-work headlights, waiting in for yet one more, which obligingly and silently emerged, cracked open on my left as I dropped in, turned, felt it chase me, catch me, chase me all down the weird low-tide shoreline, finally closing on a small strip of sandbar, leaving me to paw painfully to the beach over barnacled rock in the dark, seeking the bliss of smooth sand, which, when I finally reached it, was burning cold with the deepening night. A little after 6 p.m., toweling off, side doors open, sitting there wiping grit off numb feet with numb fingers, cold air, occasional warm blast from semi-trucks, rocking the van as they passed, waves almost invisible far out over low-tide reefs, rind of moon lowering towards island, board stowed, wetsuit rolled in a towel, last chip of wax flung into the riprap, warmer but stiff in jeans and sweatshirt, nose running salt water. I closed up the back doors and climbed into the front seat. A couple of arthritic turns and the little engine caught, snorted to life, windows greasy with salt water and diesel grime, smeared into the opacity of my wipers. Cleared enough in a minute to make cautious U-turn and head north a couple of exits to Carpinteria. Got off and pulled into the Gulf station. Put on socks and shoes while the kid pumped 10 gallons, regular at 27.7 per. Topping it off at $3. Down the block to the end of the road, right a quarter mile to Foster's Freeze, glowing bright in the night and the left. At the window, the nice lady who ran the place asked me how it was, while her husband grilled 2 charburgers and shook the sizzling basket of fries above rampaging oil. It was great, I told her, and only then realized my total satisfaction. Took the day's now rumpled newspaper off the condiment counter, sat on a picnic table, waited, feeling too hungry to eat. But when it came, it was delicious. That unmatchable gooey sauce of theirs running down my wrist as my mouth dove through a tangle of shredded lettuce and tomato into sweet hot meat of some former cow. Crispy fat fries scooping gobs of ketchup, raw effervescent sizzle of Coke down my throat. Parched, I finally realized, first drink since morning coffee in Ventura. Spread open the paper, read while I ate. The black Muslim Malcolm X was shot and killed yesterday by 3 black Muslims in New York City. For some reason, this felt ominous. And then a few pages into the first section, a small story. President Lyndon Johnson had ordered the bombing of North Vietnamese positions in retaliation for last month's Viet Cong attack on Pleiku, when 8 Americans were killed and over 100 wounded. I felt a brief twinge of awareness that my selective service registration card was in the wallet of my pocket. The 2S student deferment seemed suddenly tenuous. In a nearby story, Defense Secretary Robert McNamara was calling for a nationwide system of bomb shelters. I mopped up the last of the ketchup with the last fry and folded the paper closed. Later, starting south, swooping down around the Rincon curve, lights of oil piers in the near distance, the point a dim smudge of black, the future crowded around me, whistling with the wind as I fled towards my girlfriend in the valley. Can't forget, I said out loud. Gotta get that ding fixed tomorrow. The author of today's story was Drew Kampion. Drew Kampion is a pioneering surf writer and editor who transformed Surfer magazine in the late 1960s into a countercultural force, blending sports journalism with humor, philosophy, and social commentary. Beyond Surfer, he wrote for Surfing Magazine, penned influential books like Stoked, A History of Surf Culture, and contributed to various surf publications and media projects. His witty, eclectic style made him one of the most versatile voices in surf literature, earning him a place as the first writer inducted into the Huntington Beach Surfers Walk of Fame in 2008. Well, thank you for listening along. I hope you enjoyed today's story. Until next time, keep your stoke high and your bottom turns tight, and I'll see you in the lineup.